Welcome to POL 3842. Our class starts with ancient India. Okay. Today we're going to talk about Indus Valley civilization. Write it down. Indus Valley civilization. We're going to discuss just 14 points, and that's it. The lecture is over for it. And I have made those 14 points in an order that you could easily remember, and for the exams, and for an idea of historical knowledge you could carry with beyond this course. So, when I say ancient, what does that mean? That means before Jesus Christ, right? 2000 years before. So those periods, for those who are not familiar with historical context, how to say this is 2000. So we are here 2020. This is 2000 years. You're able to see it? Okay, good. That is 2 millennia, 1 millennia, 1000 years. So, okay, we are 2020. Now this history is here. This period is ancient India, right? And it's Indus Valley civilization. What time period are we talking about? 3300 BCE. Okay? BCE, before Christ, to 1300. So this is, say, 0, and from here you count to 2020, you go back this way. Okay? 3300 to 1300. We are talking about Indus Valley civilization. Now, where was this? So you know the time period. Now you need to know the geography. Of course, it is in India, otherwise we wouldn't be discussing it. But there's a technical thing. If you look at Indus Valley civilization, there are two sites, S-I-T-E-S, sites, familiar historically with Indus Valley civilization. One is Mohenjo Daro. Oh, whoa, you're like, what is that? Now, very famous site. Write it down, I'll spell it for you. M-O-H-E-N-J-O, put a dash, D-A-R-O. Mohenjo Daro. Mohenjo Daro. Okay? That is one city, in ancient city. And then next one is Harappa. So where are these places? Mohenjo Daro is technically now in Pakistan. Where in Pakistan? This is in Sindh. It's a province. Province, you could see like a state, like New York State, Virginia, Texas, right? US has 50 states. So Pakistan has multiple different provinces. Sindh, Balochistan, Punjab, Northwestern province, like that they have. This is in Sindh province, Mohenjo Daro. And this one, Harappa, is in Punjab. Okay, now, they are in Pakistan, but this course is about India. For those who are not familiar, Pakistan was part of India up till 1947. We will talk later in this course how they divided. Now you are two different countries, Pakistan and India. But India and Pakistan and Bangladesh were all one country as India. That's correct. So the ancient civilization of India, the two sites, are now in modern day Pakistan, in Sindh and Punjab province, Harappa. Okay, we'll talk about this, what the people did, what their religion, all those details. Now you know what the geography is. You know what time period it is. Okay, why were they formed exactly there? Why not in a different other place, right? Civilizations were formed around water. You need clean water, drinking potable water for farming and cooking, drinking, everything, and transportation. Olden times, they have to transport goods, and more convenient in water and shipping. Even in America, if you go to 19th century, transporting through water is cheaper than modern times, than trucks or anything. They didn't have trucks. Horse is the only way to pull. Shipping is better, okay? So the water, these are cities formed near water. What river? Indus River. Indus River. It's not just in India. Anywhere you look at the cities. London, Thames River, right? Egypt, Cairo, the big city, river. And look at Rome. Everything is formed near rivers. That's how civilizations were. Because for the reasons, mentioned reasons, you need water for all the activities. Okay. So this was formed near Indus River. Guess what? India got its name from this river, Indus River, Indus Valley Civilization. That's why we call it Indus Valley Civilization. Okay. When I say Mohenjo Daro, what does that mean? It's a city of death. City of death. How big is it? How big is that city? Modern day equivalent, that city is huge. Huge. Okay, at that time, we are talking about 3300 BCE. I already wrote it down. 1300, right? What were the equivalent civilizations around the world? If you look at it, Mesopotamia. I'm going to spell it because we're going to talk about it more. Mesopotamia. I don't have space, that's why I'm breaking it down. Mesopotamia. You heard of this ancient civilization, right? And Egyptian civilization. You know the pyramids, right? Ancient Egyptians built that. That was the civilization which was there at the time when Indus Valley civilization was going around, right? All these civilizations, ancient civilizations, did not match closely with Indus Valley civilization in terms of size of the cities, right? What do you mean? 35,000 to 50,000 people lived in Mohenjo Daro, estimation. Of course, they're estimated based on archaeological evidences. So let me put it for you to understand. I know you live in New York City. There are 8.5 million people. But if you go even in New York City, just during American Revolution, okay, 18th century, the New York City's population was less than 30,000. That's just a few hundred years ago. You're talking about 4,000 years ago, at 35,000 to 50,000 in number lived in Mohenjo Daro. Can you believe? That's the size. When the United States, New York was formed, right? Manhattan, the Dutch, thousands, not like tens of thousands. This is how big it was. The importance I'm talking about. So the people there, what kind of people live there? Their features. I'm going to talk about the features. Why do we need to talk about features? Because they're going to have an invasion of a different kind of people who look different than them. That's why we need to talk about the features. These people were called Dasas, D-A-S-A, Dasa. And dark-skinned, shorter, relatively compared to the people who are going to invade them soon. And these people, Indus Valley Civilization people, were there, and their populations were well organized. Urban planning, write it down. That is the fourth point. So I talked about time period. Second point, geography. Third point, population size. Fourth point is urban planning. I wrote it down bullet points so that you could easily, rather than reading different things in a book, hard to grasp, and keep it in mind. 14 points you could remember and study that easily for your exam in case if it's asked in your exam, right? So the fourth is urban planning. The urban planning was spectacular. What do you mean spectacular? They had proper streets. Proper streets. You know what urban planning is, right? Building roads, bridges, designing in New York City Central Park. That's public parks designed for public use. These are phenomenal ideas, right? Everybody, a poor man and a billionaire, all could have access. They had public baths in Rome, ancient Rome. This is even before ancient Rome. They had public baths in Mohenjo Daro and Harappa civilization, okay? And they had drainage systems. Drainage system means, even in Rome, ancient Rome, if you read, there are dirty waters running on the streets, right? People use toilet or anything. Well, not modern toilets. Don't think of modern toilets, because modern toilets were not even in America in 19th century. I give this comparison so you understand, okay? Even the presidents, John Adams and others in the White House, didn't have modern toilets. no running water. Yeah, that's just a few hundred years ago. These guys had drainage, underground drainage, water going so that impure water goes, the used water from homes and other things running around goes outside the city and falls, so that you won't get, well, sickness for one thing, right? Even though there was no theory of germ theory, didn't come until modern time, until 19th century, right? They had such clean, amazing designs, drainage systems. And the city, what we have excavated, excavation means digging and finding the archaeological evidences, is small in size compared to what should be dug out in Mohenjo Daro and Harappa. We haven't done enough. There's so much more, way more than what we have, because of funds and lack of funds. It's not fully done yet. So urban planning was spectacular, even compared to modern 20th century India. It was amazing. Yes, ancient India. Okay. The next one, when you think of this all urban planning, immediately you will think of what? If it is city, New York City, who designs from New York City government, right? I don't know whether you heard of Robert Moses, who designed most of New York City roads, highways, bridges, beaches, public, Jones Beach, everything, right? It comes from public works. So you think of what kind of government they had. So that is the next point, fifth point, write it down. Politics. When you're talking about ancient time, say ancient Egypt, you know they were pharaohs, emperors, kings, powerful. They're like God, and they get pyramids built for them to bury after their deaths. There was, despite all this fancy urban planning in Indus Valley civilization, there was no pyramids, no palaces. Huh? That means what? There's no kings? Yes, seems like there were no kings. There was no like higher authority of power. It's very interesting. And what is it, a democratic society? Everybody was equal? We don't know fully. We don't know. Why we don't know fully? I'll tell you that a little later in the next point. But follow me so far. The polity, the government, the organization was confederation. Confederation. How do you spell confederacy? You know, confederacy of confederation on the top. That means many small groups of cities coming together to organize and maintain peace. Maintain peace. So they didn't have a higher authority who is above everybody like God and have all great constructions built on them. Nothing. Now, confederacy, probably I was about to say that before I wrote. You might remember the Civil War time, the states which seceded from the United States, they were collectively called confederacy, right? Yes. So these were confederacy, a joint group of organizing their politics. So when you said peace, you automatically think of war. I said peace, right? War. Did they have war? That is a big surprising thing for archaeologists to find that, are you ready? They never had war. What? How is that possible? Any civilization, they will fight for resources, right? Because you're constantly for land, for resources, which means water, to food, to anything. You fight with neighboring tribes or other things. How could you not have war? What makes you tell they didn't have war? Well, the evidence. Archaeologists, when they dig, what do they find? Bones, artifacts, right? So if you had war, bones with blunt trauma in there. There isn't. Only a couple of children buried had traumatic injuries. Most of the ones found were disease, wiped out by diseases like malaria and others, right? And so they couldn't find on excavation war being fought. And some scholars may think, is it unique to Indian culture from the beginning? What do you mean? Because Buddhism started there. It's a very peaceful religion. Buddhism, not at this time period. Later, I will tell you about that. Hinduism, which is going to come to India, and Gandhi talked about peace, which Martin Luther King brought to America. So the Indian culture has this unique aspect of peace, not having violence as a form of politics. Because Karl von Clausewitz said, war is a continuation of politics by other means. His quote. That is, if you have politics, you have war. That is, war is used as another means to achieve political aim. But they didn't use violence. It's interesting. So now you might ask me, I mean, you had to tell me more. How do you know all this is true? Do they have a writing? Do they leave these things? They have left a script, okay? Just like every ancient civilization have writings. Not every, I should say. Some of the prominent ones, like Egyptians, hieroglyphics, right? You know the hieroglyphics? Some people like to put it on their chain and pendant. Hieroglyphics. Similarly, Mayans in Latin America have hieroglyphics as well. And if you go to Mesopotamia, they have cuneiform. It's a form of writing. Cuneiform, C-U-N-E-I-F-O-R-M. Cuneiform writing. All these are deciphered, decoded, so we could understand what their culture was writing, what they were talking about. Whereas when you come to Indus Valley civilization, the script is not called hieroglyphics or cuneiform. It is called Indo script. Indo, I-N-D-O script. Now here's the problem. It's very undecipherable. They couldn't decode it. They couldn't decode it? No, they weren't able to. Still, maybe if you should try and decode it and become world famous. Yeah, because if you decode the script, you could understand so much about their history, their culture, their religion, all these things, because we were not able to understand much about it. Why aren't they not able to decipher? Where are these scripts found? Well, if you go to Egypt or to Mayans or Mesopotamia, these scripts are found in tall, big buildings, in tablets, right? Whereas if you go to Indus Valley civilization, they don't have monumental buildings. I already told you that, like pyramids or anything. It seems like everybody lived in equality, but the scripts are found in artifacts, small artifacts, like it could be on a pottery, it could be on a small tablet, it could be, they probably wrote, scholars say, in Indian culture, in leaves, right? But we won't be able to find that because they die, they decay after time. They won't withstand onslaught of time for archaeologists to dig it out and find it. Okay, so these writings are undesirable. Maybe I'll talk about that writing a little bit so you understand. Okay, now the most common letter is this. I don't know whether I'll do justice. I'll try my best. Does this mean anything to you? Yeah, some scholars think, oh, they're talking about cows. It looks like it, right? Another scholar says, no, it's a pan with ears to lift. This is the most common letter in the Indo script. And I mean, I don't know whether you know, this French dude, a young dude, deciphered Egyptian hieroglyphics because the Rosetta Stone, you know, have you heard of it? Not the company, it's named after the stone. It had the keys to decipher. There's no keys for Indo script, so we couldn't decipher what's written in there. So we don't know what type of religion they practiced. Yeah. Now, some scholars say their language is closer to Dravidian. How do you spell Dravidian? D-R-A-V-I-D-I-A-N. Dravidian. Did you write it down? Who are Dravidians? You're looking at one. I'm a Dravidian from the South India. Indians who are from southern tip area, a group of people. We are all from Africa. You should watch the documentary called Journey of Man, right? tens of thousands of years ago, right? We spread around the world. About 30 or 40,000 man reached Australia. About 10 to 12,000 years ago, Americas to Bering Strait. We all came out of Africa. So one of the group which came out early lived in southern India, South India. If you look at India's map, you have to look at it. If it's in a class, I will show you here. Open up, look at India's map. With geography, you will understand better. Images, stores, the stories I'm telling you, along with the location to stay in your mind. And this Dravidians, one of the languages, it's my mother tongue. But of course, we also had ancient Tamil. My mother tongue is Tamil. Tamil is one of the Dravidian languages. So in ancient Tamil language is similar to this Indo-script. Interesting. But it's not like accepted widely by all scholars. Most of them lean towards it. So that's where they are. Not yet fully went with it. Now let's talk about how many points have I talked about? 1 is period, the time period. 2 is geography. 3 is population. 4 is urban planning. 5th is politics. 6th is war. 7th is writing, the Indo-script. 8th is language, right? Language close to the Dravidians. So ancient Dravidian language, Tamil. Ancient Tamil is a little different. It's like English and Shakespeare English, or even King James Version, the Bible. Thy shall not, thou shalt. We don't speak like that. Tamil also have like that, ancient Tamil. Okay, anyway, write down the next point, 9th point, trade, right? So I told you they live near rivers, not only just for food and living and irrigation. So what type of trade did they do? They traded with other ancient cultures, Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, all those cultures. And they used the river to take it to the ocean, and from ocean all the way to those cultures. Now, write down the next point, or you could write down below trade, agriculture. If you add agriculture as another point, it'll become 15 points for this class. Let's make it, okay, 10 is agriculture. What type of agriculture did they have? Barley, wheat, oats, all this they did plant. And how do we know? Because they stored them. They have built grainage place to store the grains, and we see them, okay? And in summer, they grew cotton. Monsoons in India. Have you heard of monsoon? It's like rainfall, non-stop rainfall, and they grew cotton. Cotton needs a lot of heat, and well, in the south of America, right? Slavery time, cotton was a big plantation. India also, in ancient India, cotton was used, and these are things which they were using to trade with Mesopotamia and Egypt and other places. Okay, now we're going to talk about invasion. 10. Write it down as invasion. Who are these people who invaded? These people are called, are you ready? Aryans. Yeah, the same word the Nazis use. Aryans, Aryans. Who are these Aryans? These Aryans are people lighter in skin color compared to the Dasas who are living already in Indus Valley civilization, okay, and taller. And by the way, if you read biology, genetics books, people with higher protein intake in food, the height increases, right? So these people came from the north through Afghanistan into Indus Valley civilization. It's an invasion. They came with violent intent to overtake these Dasa people, kill them, and take over the civilization. Talk about war. Maybe because the Dasa people didn't fight and they perished, you might think. But I'll talk about how they perished and science, what science says. These Aryans brought along with them something called Hinduism. That's right, Hinduism. Well, Hinduism is, others call that as Hinduism, but they didn't call themselves as Hindus. They brought the books called Vedas, Veda, S. Vedas, Vedic text, Vedic, Vedic text. They brought along with them this light-skinned Aryan people who thought they're superior, yeah, just like the Nazis, superior than the Dasa people. And what are these texts? So it's religion, Hinduism. I'll have a whole lecture allotted to you on Hinduism, modern Hinduism in India, because it's very relevant for politics and history of India to understand the Hindu religion. But now all you got to do is, what do they bring along with it? What is this text? They brought 4 books. Rigveda, if you don't know the spelling, just look it up, or I will write it down quick. Rig, R-I-G, like oil rig. Rigveda, which is the largest of the 4 Vedas. Rig, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. I'll show you. Samaveda, Atharva Veda, Yajurveda. Okay, 4 Vedas. The Rig Veda is the largest one. So what does this Vedas talk about? They talk about the god of Indra. It's a song of praise. Indra, I-N-D-R-A. It's a god, warlike god. These people are warlike too. They rolled down Afghanistan, came into Indus Valley civilization in what? Chariots, yeah, drawn by horses. So the Indus Valley civilization people did not have horses. It was brought in by the Aryans. Just like the conquistadors. You know the conquistadors? Have you heard of them? These are Spanish conquistadors who went in the 16th century to Latin America, who overtook Inca Empire. Atahualpa was the king. They went in horses. Atahualpa, the emperor of Inca Empire in Latin America, in Peru, modern day Peru, haven't seen horses. They were shocked. What is this white people? They ghost. So they were called conquistadors. They took over the big empire. Like this, the Aryans came with horses into the Indus Valley civilization. Okay? Now, they brought this religion called Hinduism, this Vedas. There's another god other than Indra, Agni, A-G-N-I, that means fire. So they rolled in their chariots with Indra, the lord of lightning bolts, and Agni, fire, with violence to decimate the population and take over. Now, they also brought something, a symbol, which is still used in Indian households. By the way, this 4 text becomes the basic text of Hinduism. Yeah. They are also brought along with them, based on the Vedas, caste system. Caste, C-A-S-T-E. You will learn about caste system in detail later in this course, but here we'll just touch on it because we're just talking about the Indus Valley civilization. Caste is hierarchies, 4 main hierarchies, and the untouchable. Have you heard of this? India have caste system. Okay, the Brahmins, the top caste, B-R-A-H-M-I-N, Brahmin, the top caste, come from the mouth of the Brahma. The god Brahma is the one who creates. He's the creator god. And they come from, the Brahmin is the high caste. And then the Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas, how do you spell? Kshatriyas are warriors. Kshatriyas are princes. Later in India, the prince, the rulers are Kshatriyas. They come from the arms, upper body, upper extremities of Lord Brahma. Brahma is the creator god. Brahma. So Kshatriya, Brahmins, I already spelled it. You put an I-N, Brahmin. Okay. Now they even call Boston Brahmins, the people who live in Boston, who are highly educated. And so the Brahmins were highly educated priests. Okay. Priests of Hinduism. And the Kshatriyas, how do you spell? There's a lot of word learning here for you guys. Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas. These are warriors coming from the Brahmas, the god Brahma's arms. And the next one is Vaishyas. Vaishyas is coming from, Vaishyas are merchants, okay? They are coming from the thighs of Brahma, thighs, lower extremity, okay? And then from the feet, Sudras. Sudras, these are laborers, mean labor jobs. And then there's a fifth category that didn't come from Brahmas. These are untouchables. Untouchables. That means nobody will touch them. They're the outcast. They are people, modern day, called Dalits. D-A-L-I-T-S. D-A-L-I-T-S. If you Google Dalits, you will see they still exist. Caste system in India, even though the government has, by decree, by law, have said caste system, you cannot discriminate based on caste system. Just like here in America, just because the government has said you cannot discriminate based on racism, does racism disappear? No. And we'll talk about affirmative policies the government give for caste system later. But here, we'll just talk Indus Valley civilization. These guys brought in the caste system because Hinduism, it's part of Hinduism. Why caste system? Order in society. Everybody who is in that position do their job until death. So if they do a better job, they will get a promotion probably in the next life to go to the higher category. Until then, they got to just work in that and die in that. They can't just, if you're born as a Kshatriya, oh, you can't aspire to be a Brahmin. No, it's not like a job promotion. This life, that's it. Do your job, what is given to you. So everybody stick to what is given, order, and society will have proper order. One of the points, 12th point, okay, so I'll remind again, 9 was trade, 10 was agriculture, 11 invasion, 12 religion, 13 is swastika. You know the swastika symbol, right? The Nazis used it. They picked it up from the Aryan civilization. Yes. Hindus still use it in India, not as a discrimination against Jewish or anything. In fact, the Jews were never discriminated. Jews lived in India. They were never discriminated in India. India is the only society which never, the Jews never faced anti-Semitism in India. It's amazing why. We'll talk about that later. But now, swastika, the symbol, Google what swastika, you will see, is used by Hindus as a good omen in homes because it's part of Hinduism. Because the Nazis used it, now it's a symbol of, in the West, it's a symbol of oppression, discrimination. Right? You can use that. Now, the next one, 14th, I think, horse theory. The modern political party, the one which is in power in India right now, they're called BJP, Bharatiya BJP. If you type BJP party, it'll give you a full form in internet. Bharatiya Janata Party. Janata, BHARATIYA. Janata, JANATA. Party, you know how to spell. Political party. This Bharatiya Janata Party is a Hindu fundamentalist party. Okay? It's a right wing. Congress is left wing. So this right wing party, which is in power, doesn't want to believe that Hinduism came from outside India. They want to make it, they even changed textbooks in schools to make that Hinduism started in Indus Valley civilization, didn't brought in by Aryans. And so when there were artifacts found with horses, with quotes of Hinduism, they show like, look, and the horse theory, the Western scholars say the horses were not there in Indus Valley civilization by the Dasa people. It was brought in by the Aryans, okay? So Hinduism was brought in by outside forces. Of course, the discussion, contest of ideas, some politics tries to rewrite history to support their views. Okay, that's a whole other discussion. The last one, 15th point, is death of civilization. Death of civilization. Every civilization rise, thrives, and falls. Right? The thriving happened in 2600 to 1900. Write it down for the Indus Valley civilization. 2600 to 1900. When did the invasion happen? 1500 to 1300 BC, before Christ, BC. Why didn't it happen in one day? Groups of invasions came, not like one set of invasion. Groups of invasion over a period of century came from 1500 to 1300. Okay, and death of a civilization, the Indus Valley civilization. By the way, before I talk about the death, even now in Harappa, they found pottery post Harappan civilization. These were potteries made by the Aryans, which are different from what the Dasa people have made. Okay, so death of civilization. Why did they die? The modern technology uses a lot of sources. Even this time period, how do they find radiocarbon dating and dendrochronology studies? You could Google what radiocarbon dating. I could explain, take the time, but I don't want to. It's fascinating to know how science is used to study what time period what came from. Anyway, so the death of civilization, they use climate models and other things to know that the civilization died not just because of invasion. Many scholars believe it's because of climate change. The rivers started running dry, and the collapse of a civilization collapse. Jared Diamond, a scholar, wrote a book because of environmental disasters. So the environmental catastrophe created the collapse of the Indus Valley civilization. Okay, and these Aryans started moving into India further down and started mixing with other like people who were living there, including Dravidians. Now there's not a strict hierarchy of Aryan, but if you look, Indians is a mix of different ethnic groups and even racial. You Google Bollywood actors and you would see people who are dark skinned like me to the extreme of light skin, as much as European and lighter eyes, not like dark eyes as mine. How is this contrast? Because of the Aryans coming in and mixing with already pre-existing people into the country. Of course, it was not a one country. India was not a one sovereign country at the time. Okay, not until 1947. It was many small kings ruled for thousands of years, which we'll talk about. But for now, all you need to understand in this lecture is that Indus Valley civilization is a remarkable civilization that started at the oldest to understand the origins of India in terms of there was not hierarchy, strong hierarchy, and people in large communities thrived, great urban planning, and politics was different. They had great trade going on, and agriculture, thriving agriculture, and the language still is not decrypted because of its strength. It's hard to decode it, right? But one day some will decode it and we will understand. And the invasion of Aryans happened and the civilization started changing, and the demise happened with the climate change and the rivers when they start running dry, and populations cannot sustain, large populations cannot sustain there. Some people even argue with the diseases killing. With climate change, diseases also happens because diseases move up. Even now, climate change, America, with warmer climates, diseases in tropical areas move up. So climate change brings new diseases and new forms, and people that demise, the death of that civilization. So next lecture, we'll be talking about Hinduism in detail, the Vedas this guy's brought. It's going to change India, and up till modern times, its impact. And as I already said, BJP, it's a political party, fundamental Hinduism, and we will learn all that. Okay, good luck. Looking forward to your answers. 3 points, 3 individual paragraphs on this lecture and on the other video I will put for you. Good luck.